Prince here, and this week we are talking about first-hand and second-hand accounts in our ELA packet. A first-hand account is when someone writes about an event that they were at. They witnessed it with their own eyes, they were there, and then they write about it and tell an audience about it. A second-hand account is when someone researches an event that they did not witness. They were not there, but they research it and then they write about it. So let's look at our note-taking page that's in your packet. A first-hand account is also known as a primary source. A first-hand account is a direct description of an event from someone that was there to see it. So clues that you may find in the passage may include personal opinions and feelings. It includes very specific details, and it has a first-person point of view. That means the author is using words like I, me, my, I was feeling, I saw, someone said to me. Now, in a second-hand account, this is also known as a secondary source. A second-hand account is a description of an event written or told by someone that was not there. So usually it's based on research. Clues may include facts from several primary sources. The event usually happened in the past, and a third-person point of view. So the person speaking is not saying, I was there, I witnessed it. Usually they're talking about other people, other events, saying she, he, them, things like that. Now, if we think about common types of first-hand accounts, the first one is a diary or journal. The Diary of Anne Frank is one of the most popular first-hand accounts or primary sources. That was a diary written by her during a very historical and traumatic time that's now famous. So a diary or journal is the first type of first-hand account that's most common. You need to be writing this in your packet. The second type is a photograph. Oftentimes, history books and textbooks include photographs from historical events. Someone was there and they took a picture and then wrote about it later. You'll often see this in situations like the attack on Pearl Harbor. There are lots of pictures of that event that are in history books. Video footage is the next most common type of first-hand account. If someone is there with a cell phone or a video camera and they are able to video what took place, then that is a very reliable first-hand account or primary source of what happened. Autobiography. An autobiography is when someone writes their own biography. They're writing their own story. A biography on its own is written by someone else. If someone wants to write George Washington's life story and they write all about his life, they would write the biography of George Washington. But if George Washington himself wrote the biography, he wrote his whole life story, then that would be an autobiography. That's A-U-T-O if you can't read that. The next common type of primary source or first-hand account is a letter or an email. Martha Washington, George Washington's wife, is well known for her letters that she wrote during the Revolutionary War. And those letters are first-hand accounts. They're a primary source of what was going on during the Revolutionary War, based on what she was saying to her husband, what she was writing to other people, how she was feeling about the events that were going on. The last type of primary source is a speech. Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech is one of the most popular first-hand accounts from the Civil Rights Movement. He talked about what was going on in the 60s, what he wanted to see happen for the future. He said, I have a dream. He used those clue words. There's video footage of that. There is recording of that. There are photographs. People have written letters about being there. It was a very historical event that you can now look up. It's documented as a speech online. A second-hand account is also known as a secondary source. A second-hand account is a description of an event written or told by someone that was not there. It's usually based on research, remember? So if you're writing about George Washington's life, that's a second-hand account. You were not alive. You did not see what happened, but you've researched it and now you are writing about it. Some common types of second-hand accounts are biographies, like we talked about with George Washington, textbooks, when we're reading in our CKLA book about the Renaissance or about scientists studying the layers of the earth. Those are second-hand accounts. They have been written by somebody who was not there but has researched it and put it together for you in a textbook. News articles written after the event occurred. So a news article covering Martin Luther King Day today would mention the I Have a Dream speech, would mention his life and talk about him in depth and use a lot of details from primary sources. But that person writing that news article today was most likely not there 60 years ago to witness the I Have a Dream speech, to meet Martin Luther King, to be present at these events. So that's a second-hand account because this person today has just researched those events. The last type is an informational book. We have some of these in the classroom, those books that teach you about cooking or taking care of animals and give you step-by-step instructions. They pull their information from primary sources, from people that have already cooked the recipe, that have already taken care of an animal in a zoo or wildlife habitat, and now they're putting that information all together in a book for you to read. We're going to do this compare and contrast piece together, and then you are going to have one to do on your own. So the passages we're going to look at together today are over the American flag. Now, it tells you to underline clues in blue, but I've already gotten that done for you here on the screen. It was reported is underlined. Think about those words. It was reported that Betsy Ross sewed the first American flag in May of 1776. The American flag was changed by Congress many times throughout history. Between 1777 and 1960, that's underlined, look at those dates, Congress passed acts to change the flag. Most of these changes were due to the addition of each new state in the Union. Today, the American flag has 13 horizontal stripes and 50 stars. The flag has been used to mark many different places citizens of the U.S. have visited. The American flag was placed at the North Pole in 1909, the top of Mount Everest in 1963, and on the moon in 1969. Now look at all these facts and clues that we have underlined. All of these things are taking place in the past. So think for a minute. What does that tell you about this passage? Is it a primary source, which is a first-hand account? Was this person there when all of this happened? Or is it a second-hand account, a secondary source? Take a minute to think about it. All right, have you thought about it? You're right. This was a second-hand account, a secondary source, because this person was not here when these things took place. This person has researched Betsy Ross and the history of the American flag, and they have put it together in this passage for you. Now, this next passage says, sitting sewing in her shop one day with her girls and myself around her, Betsy Ross is who we're talking about. Several gentlemen entered. She recognized one of these as the uncle of her deceased husband, Colonel George Ross, a delegate from Pennsylvania to Congress. She also knew the handsome form and features of the dignified yet graceful and polite commander-in-chief, who, while he was yet Colonel Washington, had visited her shop both professionally and socially many times, a friendship caused by her connection with the Ross family. They announced themselves as a committee of Congress and stated that they had been appointed to prepare a flag, and asked her if she thought she could make one, to which I witnessed, look at that pronoun, her reply, with her usual modesty and self-reliance, that she did not know, but she could try. She had never made one, but if the pattern were shown to her, she had no doubt of her ability to do it. This was written by William Canby in 1860. Now, is this a first-hand or second-hand account? Remember, first-hand accounts are when the person was there, they witnessed it. The second-hand account is when they research it and they were not there. Think about it. That's right. This is a first-hand account. William Canby was there. He witnessed Betsy Ross doing this, and then he wrote about it. So this is a primary source, a first-hand account. Now we're going to compare and contrast these two accounts. We just read the American flag, which was a passage from maybe a history journal or a textbook. And the William Canby account was that passage that I just read out loud to you that William Canby wrote. Now remember, when we compare and contrast, the middle is what is similar about the two. What is the same? It's the same topic, the American flag history. So in both of these passages, in the American flag and the William Canby account, we are talking about the same topic, the history of the American flag. Now, if we go and look at the American flag, remember that was a secondary source. It has facts from many different years in history. It's a third-person point of view. The author wasn't present during any of these events, and it is a secondary source. This author was not there when Betsy Ross was alive. This author did not witness Betsy Ross sewing the American flag. This author just put the information together later after researching this topic. Now, in the William Canby account, it is a primary source. It gives specific details about William witnessed, and it's a first-person point of view. This is a primary source, and William was there. He wrote about seeing Betsy Ross do this. So that's a first-person point of view. He said, myself, I witnessed, I saw. That's what makes this a first-hand account, a primary source. Now, in your packet, you have these pages to complete on your own. I'm going to do 2 problems with you and then leave the rest to you. Remember, a first-hand account is when someone was there. It's a primary source. They witnessed it, like our William Canby letter. A second-hand account is when someone researches it and writes about it. They were not there. That's a secondary source. So let's look at the first 2 problems on this page. It says write F for firsthand or S for secondhand. A journal written by a survivor of the September 11th terrorist attacks. Would that be a first-hand account or a second-hand account? That is a first-hand account. They use the word survivor. This person survived September 11th. They were there. They saw what was happening, and they wrote in their journal about it, using words like, I saw, I was here, the building crumbled in front of me. Those pronouns, that experience is a first-hand account, so that journal would be a primary source. A research report written by a student about the Holocaust. Now look at it again. A research report written by a student today, like you, about the Holocaust. This is a second-hand account because the student is researching something that happened a long time ago and writing about it today. So this first one, a journal written by a survivor of 9/11, is a first-hand account. You would put an F there. And this research report written by a student about the Holocaust is a second-hand account. Now, after you complete that page, you have 2 passages about 9/11, about September 11th to read. Then answer what type of account it is and compare the 2 passages on this page. If you have any questions or need any help with that, please comment below or reach out to your teacher. I miss you all, friends. Bye.